Hey guys, what is up? I am going to be doing the POV on how to build a rig from scratch. Here's everything. I've already laid it out here. I've got Athlon, what is this thing here? 200 GE. I have never used one of these before, so this is the first time. Ordered this from China. It's just a cheap AM4 for these motherboards. I'll show you that in a second. I've got 2 by 4 gig kit, so 4 gigs in this one, and I got another 4 gigs for another computer. Here's a motherboard. I got a bunch of these because they were on sale for pretty cheap. I was picking them up for $130 Canadian. So this plus that RAM and processor, it's a pretty cheap build. Get 6 cards on this. I tried to get more than that, but it doesn't work on some other ones. So for this, we're gonna do 6 cards. That's the motherboard. Here's the motherboard already here. I just put the RAM in it. I mounted the CPU and the cooler. Put a SATA cable in there. And I think that's about all. Oh yeah, and then I just put some standoffs on it so that it's not right on top of this wood. So we're using a wood case for this. I know a lot of guys think that wood's just going to spontaneously combust. However, I'm not sure if that is true. I don't know anybody who's ever had an issue with wood, because your biggest failure points are your risers, and the plastic on those will melt, and plastic is flammable. So I guess if there were a fire, this could possibly make it worse, but if there were a fire, there is no shortage of stuff on here that's going to burn anyways. So the biggest problem is your risers. You get a riser and it comes with this. Here is your SATA to 6-pin. And this can't draw very much power, and these have a tendency to melt. So what you should do with these, as soon as you get them, is just huck them in the trash. I don't have any scissors on me right now. Oh, that's a lot harder to break than I thought it was. There you go. Busted. There you go. This thing's going in the garbage. There you go, for dramatic effect. Throw these out. Do not use them. Never, ever, ever use these. I want to do a different video on powering risers safely. This is not it. If you want to have an unsafe riser, use this. That's what this is for. Trouble. So boom. Throwing that in the garbage. So what do we got here? We've got our 6 cards. 36. These are all, wow, this is not EVGA. These 3 are FTW3 models, and I'd like to get the whole build like that, but you know, they're pretty hard to find. So here's what we got. EVGA 3060, 3060 Ti, Zotac 3070, EVGA 3070 Ti, 3080, 3080 Ti. So we got the whole build here. These are all LHR cards. I am not sure if this is a version 1 or version 2 for the LHR, so I'm not sure if it's like the nerfed one or like the actual LHR 3060, but all the rest are LHR cards. So this will be real fun rig to benchmark because I can do it all at the same time. That'll be pretty cool to see the settings for everything. But for now, we're just going to set this thing up. So what else do we have here? We've got a power. I don't know what this does. This lets your power supplies kind of run in parallel there. So when you turn on your main board, it will activate the second one. So everything kind of turns on at the same time. We've got our 2 power supplies. We've got an 850 watt Cool Master, which is going to run the 2 big cards. These cards have an issue with EVGA power supplies, I've noticed. Your rig will just randomly reset. I did a different video on that. So we're going to use this other Cool Master power supply on that. Then over here, we've got a 1000 watt EVGA power supply. So how I like to power these are, I run, so here, we'll get a riser for you right here. So here's our riser. I always power this with SATA power. I do not want to use an adapter on that. But what I do is I split the power So I will have this going in here, and then the other one will go into the card. So what I do to count how many cables I need is I just look at the top of the card here. So this is one port, so I'll split it between the riser and the top there. So like that's one. This one has two, so this will need two 8 pins. One for here, and then one with the split that goes to the riser. So based on that, these 4 cards need 6 pins. So like what I'm talking about here is the end. This is from the power supply here. This is an 8-pin cable. I'll need 6 of those. So I've already counted that out. So with these power cables here, I've already got my 6 figured out. And then I actually need 6 for the big cards as well. So I've got my 6 counted out on this other one here, just to make things a little bit easier. Okay, so let's get going. First things first is we're gonna plug in this motherboard. So you need your motherboard power here. Here's our 8-pin. Put this under and around. So how I've done rigs in the past is I had both power supplies on one side, and then you're kind of dragging your cables all the way across, and it could be kind of hard to run them all the way out there. So I did one where I split them like this, and it was actually a lot easier to run. Then your motherboard's in the middle, and your risers don't need to run all over the place. Makes it a lot easier. So I actually forgot one thing on this motherboard. That would be these pins right here for the power cable to turn it on and off. So I'm going to go grab one of those and then plug it in. So I have this to manually, I've already used this board once, so I've actually got it set up in the BIOS to turn on after power restores. But it's good to have one of these anyways, so I'm just gonna go grab that and I'll be right back. Okay, we got that plugged in there. This is just a cheap power switch. I get them off of, you can get them off eBay or Amazon or something. I think I got a 10-pack of them for like $6. You just plug it in here, look for where it says power switch, and then that just is basically on-off button for your computer if you need it. So we've got that plugged in. Here's our SSD. I've got Hive installed on this already. There's lots of videos on how to do that. I can do another one sometime too to show you that. But for now, I'm not going to. Plug that in. There we go, we've got our operating system plugged in there. These wires are gonna be a little messy for now. I've got a whole bunch of these little Velcro strips here. We can clean it up later, but for now we're just gonna put everything together. Here is the power supply. So what you need to do with this is you need to run, if you get these, there's a few different types, but these are the ones I've always used. You need to run Molex from your primary power supply into this. That's in there. And then you need to run the 24-pin motherboard from your secondary power supply into there. And that is it. Now when you fire these up, they'll both power on and link up at the same time, and it won't cause you any issues. So we'll just leave that there for now. So what I want to do is just install, so here's our risers here. So here actually is how I set up these risers. I've got risers here and these splitters here. So we have an 8-pin on one side, and then it goes into a 6+2 on the other side. So I always power my risers this way, because then there's no power draw issue. These are a lot more robust than, say, a SATA adapter. Never ever use those SATA adapters. So we plug that in there. And I forgot to mention that these risers, if you've never used one before, one end is USB which comes with this little adapter here. This is what goes into your motherboard. And the other end of the USB just goes into here. This side's got the power. So I always power this with proper power, no other adapters. So we'll plug that card in there. That just slides in. Just slides into the bottom of your card, just like that. This is only 8-pin, so you power that in there. And we're good to go. This card doesn't draw that much power, so this wire, it'll be one from the power supply that's only using 150 watts or so. So there's no power concerns there. Screw that down. So you take your power here, plug it in. That card is powered up. So now the next step, all you have to do is take this PCIe, what is it? X1 adapter, something like that. Take that, plug it in. So this board's got 6 ports on it. I like to run them in order so that you know which card it is. So if you have one card acting up, say it's like your third one, you know that it's the third on here. That way you're not losing track of your wires. So there we go, plug that in. That's all you gotta do. That card is hooked up to the motherboard. Motherboard's ready to go. So I want to power this thing on here and get into the BIOS of the motherboard and show you the settings that I change. I use the same settings for pretty much everything. I'm gonna have to grab a longer extension cable here. These are plugged in. I just have a little extension cord right there. So when I flip that switch, this should turn on. So the first time you do this, your motherboard will not power up, and you need to use this switch here to turn it on. So we'll take our HDMI here, plug it into the card. Okay, monitor's plugged in there. Everything should be good. Always check your fans, make sure they're clear, especially when you got wires all over the place. I've done that a few times. You got, cable sitting like this or something and you don't realize it, and you go to start it up and the fan's blocked. So don't want that to happen. Another thing here is I'm using this. This is off of Amazon, which is I don't know, This is just a Bluetooth keyboard. Super cheap, cost me like $35. So you just put the Bluetooth dongle into your computer, into USB, and then you've got a keyboard which will work for you. So there we go. Just fired it up. Let's take a look here on the screen. Hopefully this works. I've never used one of these processors before. There we go. That was just really slow. So as soon as your thing shows up here, it says press delete. Okay, there we go. New CPU installed. Please enter setup to configure your system. F1. If it doesn't say that, you just hit delete to get into your BIOS. So here we go. Go into your advanced settings. And we'll run through all of them here. Hopefully this shows up okay. Okay. CPU configuration, don't need that. RG effects, yeah, let's leave those on. Primary video device, PCIe, yeah, that's fine. Actually, let's set that to, no, we'll just leave that the way it is. SATA configuration, we can just leave all that alone. Leave that alone. Onboard devices configuration. HD audio controller. We will disable that because we don't need audio. PCIe, CPU PCIe lanes unlocked. That's new, I haven't seen that before. We'll just leave that. So everything here, we've got PCIe control, X4 mode. We're not using M.2, so here you go. Here's a PCI X16. Gen 2, everything you see here, Gen 2. Gen 2, everywhere you see a setting. Bluetooth, we don't need Bluetooth on there. We don't need Wi-Fi, because we are going to be running LAN into this, an Ethernet cable. So you basically, everything you put to Gen 2. In this thing, X4 mode, I don't know. I can't remember ever actually seeing that setting. We'll leave it on there for now. APM, here you go. Restore on AC power loss. We want to power on, that's what you need. So that way when you turn the rig on, it will just fire up on its own. Above 4G decoding, enable. Resizable bar, I don't think that matters. USB, network, HDD. Oops. That stuff. I don't know what any of this here does. I don't think you need anything here. Okay, we won't play with any of this. So that's what we need. Gen 2, above 4D decoding. Boot. I always normal boot. We want normal boot. NVMe support. Boot configuration. Secure boot. Other OS, we want that because we're launching Linux on here. Okay, save changes. Here's our changes. Turned off HD audio controller. Turn these to Gen 2. We don't need Bluetooth or Wi-Fi on this one because I'm not using that. Restore an AC power loss. You want it to be power on. Above 4G decoding, enable. Okay. So I don't have this hooked up to the internet, but I do have the hard drive which has Hive on it. So let's just see if it launches Hive. Not going to press anything on the keyboard. While we're doing that, I am going to plug my power cables into here. Get these ready, get the risers ready. I got two different types of risers. I've got these colorful ones here, and I also have ones that I purchased off of GPUrisers.com. It says here, detected new processor or change data structure of the storage space. We'll just hit N. I don't know what this is all about. I just hit no for that. I think it's because I initially launched this thing with a different CPU. I just bought this one. This is the first time I've used this one. So this one's from GPUrisers.com. I really like these USB cables. Are huge. They're really long. So when you're doing a bigger build, there's tons of space there. Okay, here we go. It works. There you go. It's running. It's just not connecting to the internet because I don't have the internet connected. But there you go. It's working. So we will shut this off. and plug in the rest of the cards. So that is off. We're just going to start grabbing cards and risers. Kind of a mess here. I need a proper workstation badly. I'm going to put these smaller cards a little closer together and space out the larger, more powerful cards on the other side of this. Here's our 3070. One of these power cords is a little longer. That's the riser I wanted to use for this card. Just because this Zotac has like the super deep section here. It's a real pain to get at. Not sure why they look at how far out that heatsink sticks from the card. It's such a funny shaped card. But hey, more cooling is better, right? Forgot to plug this one in here. So we'll give this one a little bit more, start spacing it out a bit more, because these cards on the end here get hotter than the smaller cards. I like to point box fans at each of my rigs as well. Get some air running across them. What I would like to eventually do is get all server case style setups for these cards. I'm slowly moving that way. I've got 5 server cases full right now. But these ones, my big cards don't have the power in those things. So I'm running little cases like this. They can get more power supplies in them, server power supplies, whatever I need. Link them together, like in this case. Get some more power. So there you go, all the cards are on there. Now we have to hook up the power. Just making sure that those are clipping on there. So here's what I'm going to do. Take all these single cables I have here, power these guys up. So these 4 cards on the end here, plus the motherboard, are powered by the 1000 watt PSU. And the other two larger cards are going to be powered by the 850. You know what, this one uses less power. I'm gonna, just to divvy the power up on the cable, I'm gonna use this double cable for this one. And the other end will go in here. This card only draws 150 watts. And then the two singles here are going to go on this because this 3070 Ti is power hungry. It uses 250 watts. So there I've got a different cable powering the riser with the splitter and a separate one for there, just to help divvy that up a bit. Okay, moving over to this one here. We will power this with one. Power this one with its own. And then the last one here, I will power the risers with it. I'm not sure if there's a better way to do this, but with these 3-pin ones, it's a little trickier. So the one power cable is split among these back ones here, plus the risers, and then they have their own cable for the other two. So now let's plug in the risers. First riser's already plugged in. Now we'll get the second riser, and for these, you probably won't be able to see this here. I'm just running all the way down the motherboard. So first slot for the first card, second slot, second card. I guess it's kind of backwards on the motherboard. Usually you put the first card at the top. Wow, it's just how I'm looking at it. It's all the same. The leftmost card is the leftmost slot. Rightmost card, rightmost slot. Okay, risers are all plugged in. So I've got all the risers plugged in. That's 6 risers. 6 graphics cards plugged in, motherboards plugged in, 2 power supplies linked together. I've got my SSD with the operating software on there, ready to go. So all you really need to do now is pretty up these cables. Make sure that none of these fans are blocked. It's a lot easier to get nice cable management when you're dealing with server power supplies, that's for sure. I like to just kind of keep everything. I could probably throw this cable over there too. Another one. You could do this with twist ties too. Then they're just harder to make changes on them. Okay, cable management is boring. I am just gonna tie some of this stuff up and I will come back and just show you. It'll be a little bit nicer. Not great though. Cables are a little bit cleaned up. Still a bit messy. There's no real great way to do this. So that looks a little bit better. I am going to go move this to somewhere that has the internet, an Ethernet cable, which is on top of my freezer. Not very convenient. I will throw it there, plug in the Ethernet, fire it up, and then I will pull up the Hive software and let's see if it worked. Just turned it on. I've got my Ethernet cable right here. Here's a peek at the mining room for now. I've only got a few systems in here right now. There's one of my server cases full of 3060s, my 3080 Ti builds, and my 3090 builds. Loud in there with all the fans. There's the Ethernet cable, just plug that guy in there. So we'll go check out the software. Here's the cards, one of each. 3060, 3060 Ti, 3070, 3070 Ti, 3080, 3080 Ti. It's going to be running Hive. Let's go take a peek at the software. So I had some issues with this system and I believe the BIOS. I think it's because that new CPU I put in there, it didn't like it from switching over from the old one. So I unplugged everything from it. I don't know if you can see that there. Everything's unplugged. SSD is also unplugged. And I am updating the BIOS to the latest version right now. Hopefully that this fixes it. BIOS is updated. Here's the new, basically set up your BIOS, F1. So let's go through this again. Advanced, nothing there, nothing there. CPU, nothing there, nothing there. SATA, nothing there. Onboard device. So we will disable HD audio. Put this to X4. Turn this to Gen 2. I'll just leave that stuff where it's at. Auto power management. We want to be on power on. Above 4G, enable. Fast boot. I don't want fast boot. Let's disable fast boot. Setup mode, advanced mode. Other OS. All right. Let us save changes and reset. Okay. Okay, it is resetting. Let's click the power off. Plug in my hard drive here. And let's just plug in one card to start. Got one card plugged in. Turned on. There's something a little funny. That Zotac fans are not spinning. Usually everything just starts spinning right away. So if this boots up okay, we'll have to see. So the rest of the cards are plugged in. They're all plugged in. This was not showing up on the screen the last time I booted it up, but it was showing up in Hive. So we're just gonna go right to the software now and check it out. Everything's plugged in. It does its little on, off, on thing here. Not sure why it does that, but all the rigs seem to do that. I'm gonna go check out the software. So look at that, this fan is spinning now. They're all spinning. This riser I think was bad. That might be why this rig wasn't working. I swapped out this riser. I had one of these purplish pinky colored ones. I swapped it out for one from GPUrisers.com. It is now the only card plugged in. I'm gonna go check the software, make sure it's okay. Off screen, I've been plugging them in one at a time. These ones worked, those three worked. This one I couldn't get to work. Swapped out the riser, and I'm gonna see if it's working. If it's working, I'm gonna try just plugging them all in and giving it a go. So this is odd. It is saying error, you can't allocate the kernel. You must install the kernel first. It only does that when I plug all of the cards in. See, look at that. I've never had this happen before. You know, works fine with like 3 cards. Plug them all in and you get that message. Looks like this is going to turn into a troubleshooting video instead of what I wanted it to be. To any of you eagle-eyed observers, you may notice that the RAM and CPU are completely different now. So I was not able to get that other motherboard to work for whatever reason. When I put more than 3 cards on it, I would get that really weird error and it wouldn't even start up. So it's got new stuff on it. Well, not new. I just threw my other motherboard back here and took the other motherboard completely off of it. So I'm not sure why that motherboard didn't work, but it's working just fine now like this on there. So much for being my nice clean build, nice clean video showing you how to set this thing up. You know, everything would work right. I'll show you the settings anyways that it's working, but I'm a little disappointed. I'm gonna have to do a whole nother video, I think, or do some clever editing or something to put together something a little cleaner for you guys. But for now, maybe you can help me out with that really weird issue. Rig is now running under that new setup. You can see here, here's all the cards running. We got 6 cards. Everything's hashing away nicely. I just threw on some old settings here. Running on Ravencoin. So it worked with the old RAM and the old same motherboard. Well, same, not the physically same motherboard, but it's the same model of motherboard. Different RAM, different CPU. Works just fine on there. So the one that didn't work is right here. I had this RAM in there, which I don't think was the issue, and this processor, which I think might be the issue. I don't know if it's because it's got Vega graphics built in. I disabled it, but it still was giving me issues. So here we go. 200 GE. Maybe one of you guys know what's going on. So for now, I have an extra motherboard that I still need to fix. And this video ended up being not so clean as I thought it would be. I'm going to have to edit it and do like a proper nice build. But for now, I'm gonna throw it up with all my aches and pains, and maybe that'll help someone else too. Maybe somebody can help me out and figure out what's going on. But thanks for watching. I've been spending way too much time doing this. This should have taken me like an hour to do. Not even, and it ended up taking lots, 6 hours probably. So I'm tired of doing this, a little frustrated, but it is what it is, and the rig is working now, so now I can at least do some benchmarking on all of the cards with different algorithms, which will be fun. So that fun build is still there, but building it ended up not being fun. So thumbs down on building it, thumbs up for having a rig that I can play with. Thanks a lot, guys. Talk to you later.